All right. Hey, folks. Welcome to Cars, Music, and Movies. This is actually the first video podcast episode. We're over on Apple Music, got a few episodes. We've got a super cool and super generous human being here. We got Oren Rappaport. He's going to be talking to us about his 1995 Mazda Miata. You'll be able to tell that he's an enthusiast through and through. So we're just going to rock and roll and get right into it, see if we can find out about the world of Miatas. Oren, I can tell that your passion runs really deep. If you could tell the audience a little something about the first time you saw a Mazda Miata.
All right. Thanks very much, and thanks for having me, and congratulations on the first video podcast here also.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, okay, we're going to get a little granular here, but
sounds good.
It is what it is. So the first time I saw a Miata was in photographic form, and that was on Wednesday, February 1st, 1989. I know this because Miata was on the cover of the March 89 Car and Driver. That was there on my doorstep. It was the Miata and the second generation Tex. I got that magazine along with my very first college acceptance letter in the mail that day. So that article started piquing my interest in the car. And so anyway, so that was February. It hadn't been introduced yet. So the first time I actually saw one in person was a few months later, Tuesday, June 20th, 1989. It was 2 days before I graduated high school at Crossroads Mazda in North Hollywood. The group of friends and I went there, and they had one that had just come in, the red one. And I remember looking around it with my friends, and I remember thinking, it's really cool. It's too small. And anyway, that's I remember my first impression. And I changed my tune within about 5 months of that visit, deciding that I would ultimately have one.
That's amazing. And I love how you have the exact dates. I mean, how often does that happen? This shows you're a true fan. So that's just amazing.
That's a whole separate party trick in and of itself. That's a whole other episode. Okay.
Fantastic. That was the conduit. That was the spark. It's like the mojo was just there.
100%.
From the very get-go.
100%.
That's fantastic. Very cool. What would you say, Oren, that really sets this car apart from other sports cars? I mean, there's the purity of formula. I'm going to let you talk about it, but best traits and what you love the most about it.
All right. Well, what really struck me from the first articles I ever read about it to all the books I would read about it and other information was just from its beginning, and almost from its very beginning, but there were design competitions at Mazda during its development, but really from its first seedling, and certainly when the front engine rear drive formula was baked in place during the development process, it was just from the beginning, this was a purity of design and of purpose. And so from the beginning, from that point, it was designed to be a back to basics, fun, affordable, lightweight roadster in the vein of classic British sports cars, for instance, with modern engineering, modern reliability. So this was never meant to be the fastest car on the market. It was never meant to be the absolute best handling car of all time, though its handling is an incredible strength of the car. It was designed to bring purity of purpose to its owner, to the driver, just to bring joy to the faces of the driver and the occupant. And honestly, they just hit it out of the park from day one. And incredibly, we're 3.5 decades later, right? I look this way because I'm old now. This came out a long time ago. And it's really stayed incredibly true to that formula and that ethos for all this time, across 3.5 decades, across 4 generations. It's like unheard of. What I like most about it is it's exactly what it was meant to do. It brings me joy, brings me happiness to drive, whether I'm cruising an open highway, whether I'm attacking a canyon road, and with or without the stereo going, it just makes you smile. Looking at it also just makes you smile. It is purity of purpose and execution. From the 200 different exhaust notes that they sampled to settle on the right one, to the drilled pedals to remove a few grams of mass from the thing, to the chromed speedo and tack that debuted on day one to bring back the feeling of those classic British roadsters. It's all in there. Everything is purposeful. Try to do this.
Another big testament is that you mentioned earlier that a lot of people do set up their cars to go on the track And I think that's a big testament to the car as well, because the bones are so good. It starts with such good bones
Right.
to begin with. You don't really have to do a whole lot to it, and if you want to go crazy, you can. And I think when we had one of our first conversations, there's been some pretty nutty variants, like the Monster Motorsports Miata that had the Fox body, 5.0 stuffed under the hood, and is a complete beast, of course, with power to weight ratio and everything. But the fact that you could even do that was just, beyond cool.
Yeah.
But you just don't have to do a whole lot. I mean, the monster thing is like, if you want to go haywire, yeah, go for it. But otherwise, you don't have to really do much, and you just go to Willow Springs or go wherever you are. Go to your nearest racetrack and do your track days.
Yeah.
And the car's probably not going to blow up on you. So
no, like these things are, and that's also kind of what I appreciate about it. It's one thing. Listen, there are a number of amazing vehicles out there, but what is another endearing quality about this car is that, not that you would ever want to beat up on it because it's so good you just want to give it a hug, but in the way that people, beat up or may mistreat mechanical objects, these things, it's like a Timex. They take a licking and they keep on ticking. These things are bulletproof.
Yeah.
And there's a reason it is the car with its own competitive class.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, it's a singularity of purpose and just a very, very well done execution of what it's meant to be. That's what it's meant to be.
Very well said. And you're not taking out a second or third mortgage to go get it serviced either. So
yeah,
you might have to do with some of these other cars.
It's accessible.
Yeah.
And that's remained so. And it will always remain so. The first series, the 1.6 liters from 90 to 93. And then the second series, the 94 through 97, which had a bigger 1.8 liter motor, a few extra horsepower, and then a few more beginning in 96. Side engine bracing, the interiors, the cross brace. I prefer the second series just for this feels a little sturdier, a little more rigid, and a little more power. But there's kind of this back and forth as to what's best. And of course, you need a stick.
Oh, you have to have a stick.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's sacrilege to look at one of those things with an automatic. It's like lobotomizing somebody. How could you do that? Can't mess with. I agree with you 1,000%.
And it's about the best. It's within the top ranks of best shifters ever. 2000 is up there. One or two other, perhaps Honda and maybe one other shifter up there. But this thing is like a toggle switch, just snicks.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say this. I have yet to drive one. I want to drive one. Probably the best JDM shifter that I ever rode through was on a mid 90s. I think it was a 96. It was an Acura Integra GSR with the VTEC motor. It was about 170 horsepower. And that was, it was like a baby NSX. It was such a great car. I wish I had bought one. And that shifter was incredible. Just so everything was, perfect.
I know. As it turns out, I happen to know someone with a stick shift Miata. So.
Well, I appreciate that. I may have to take you up at some point.
Please do.
On that. And of course, this is Cars, Music, and Movies. So I have to ask you, if you could pair your car and its, oh my gosh, charismatic and legendary, iconic presence with a film, with a piece of music, what would you choose?
Okay. So music, soundtracks, I think they're integral to like an elevated driving experience. And I really consider there to be kind of two different driving modes for the Miata. There's day driving and night driving. It's a happy, light, very buoyant sort of car. It's designed to be happy and joyous. And I like to think that music should potentially be from the same era or thereabout. So for something during the daytime, something light, happy, buoyant, fast-paced, I think pairs very well with stereo turned up. I think we're looking at the Go-Go's, to be honest. Head over heels, they all work.
Fantastic.
Miata drivers, if you're out there, try it, turn it up, enjoy a nice sunny day, just driving around with it. You will smile harder than you've smiled in a long time. Or for nighttime driving, thinking like relaxed highway cruising, it's a no-brainer. I have to go with the signature hit by the greatest musical artist who ever lived. That would be Phil Collins, and the ephemeral In the Air Tonight as the nighttime air envelops you as you're driving. Miata drivers, again, try these. they were.
Those are great suggestions. Movie pick for the car.
A movie pick.
Tough one, I know.
Well, this is a car that just works well with that is just synonymous with like a road trip, right?
Oh, sure.
Just being out there on the open road and enjoying yourself. And for that reason, and because it's a funny movie, I might say Vacation.
Nice. Think of all the things Clark W. Griswold could have avoided if he had just been in a Miata. Darn it.
You don't need the whole family. Just take Beverly D'Angelo with you, and you're fine.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Right. So I'm not sure what might fit better than that, but I'm going with Vacation because it just conjures up, the open road and pitfalls aside, fun, enjoyment, and driving.
Vacation's a great pick. So, Oren, I'm going to shift gears, pun intended, just a little bit. Boy, that was cheesy, wasn't it? To future plans with your car. I'm wondering if it sounds like you treat it really, really well. Have you or are you planning to do any track days or anything like that with it? Or would you want to preserve this one and maybe pick up a higher mileage one that you decide to do that with, like a take it to Willow Springs kind of thing?
That's a really good question. This one, my actual car, I try to keep in as original shape as possible. And though I like to play with it, I don't really track it. This one I don't really track. So I like to keep this as pristine and three plus decades out, but try to keep it to preserve what something like this really was like. Not quite off the showroom floor at this point, but as close to it as possible from back in the day. If I did want to track one, I'd likely get a different one, probably a first or second gen, most likely a first or second gen, something that maybe had been, beaten up enough, and that you can mod out and take out there and just do whatever you want and not have to worry about it a whole lot.
Right. I was going to say that sounds like a smart plan. I was going to say, not have to worry about it too much. If you had a second one, maybe it's already got the roll bar in there. Who knows? The fire extinguisher in the front passenger seat. Not that you would necessarily need it with that car. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I've seen some. Well, the other day when I was looking, I saw some that were around like 140 to 170K miles, but they had some things replaced and this, that, and the other, but still running well. And people were tracking them, and they were, $6,500, $7,000 around there, So not crazy. If you just want to pick something up for track days. Yeah. So that's a smart plan.
And because there are so many of these built, it is relatively easy to find one. Condition being potential being a concern depending on what you want, but they are still out there. And the parts and replacement and refurbishment industry for the Miata is huge.
Yeah.
These things are really easy to get back up and running if you happen to get one that needs some TLC and customize the heck out of.
Yeah. And just like you, Oren, I mean, the good news for anyone who's looking to get into a Miata, the community at large seems to be taking really, really good care of their cars. There's ones in really great shape, like the one that you have. And then there's people that it's usually either that they're keeping it as close to showroom as they can, almost looking at it as a real world asset, keeping it in really nice shape because they probably are going to go up, the ones of your generation, and or at least hold. I'm thinking they're probably going to go up. But then, the other side is people have their track cars and it's kind of one or the other. And it's kind of like the perfect menu at a restaurant. Go decide what you want. You want something that's going to be a future collectible or already is, arguably, or do you want something that you're going to go race around with? Yeah. Fantastic. So, Oren, we've come to the time in the podcast where I have to throw a little bit of trivia at you. And this is coming from the first year, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Miata came out. So that was 1989. So there was a Steven Spielberg film in 1989. It was about a firefighter. The main actor in it, or the lead actor, was Richard Dreyfuss. And something happened on that film set involving, let me just say, Miatas, multiple Miatas. And there's a Steven Spielberg connection. Have you heard any rumors through the airwaves about this?
So, okay. I have not seen that movie. And the movie that I believe you're referring to is Always from 1990.
Bingo. Yep.
So when the film wrapped, which was like at the very, very end of 1989, so the Miata had literally been out for 6 months at that point. And for anyone who may remember or may have seen news articles, this was like the it car, right? I like
Oh
to
yeah.
think it's always been the it car, but okay. Um, when it was brand new, these things were, there weren't many around in the first place because they were new. They were going for way over sticker. Dealers were charging significant markups, and it was the it car of the day. So Steven Spielberg probably bought identical Miatas for the leads of the movie. I don't know what color. I don't know whether it was the red, the white, or the blue, but all the leads got matching Miatas, and what a way to close out the debut year of the Miata and the decade. Not bad.
Well, bravo on that one. I heard some rumors through the grapevine, so we're going to give you full credit for that. I heard rumors through the grapevine that it actually extended to cast and crew. So there were quite a few that were purchased. Someone out there could correct me. I could be wrong with that, but that was one of the things that I had researched, and also that they were all red. And I don't know if that had to do with the firefighter theme, fire engine red, or I'm not sure. That's what I heard kind of through the grapevine, that it was quite a generous gesture. I mean, any car that's purchased for anybody, just here you go. That's incredible gesture of generosity. But yeah, I'd heard one account that said cast and crew. So somewhere in there lies the truth, but he obviously gave them to, people involved with the film. So it's a cool piece of trivia. And so as far as provenance, I mean, that's
right.
You have one of those cars. It's a one-off. Well, it's a whatever off. I mean, cast and crew, maybe there were, however many people, but you have a very rare car as far as provenance.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Right? Anytime there's someone of fame in whatever degree, if they've been a part of the car's history, that elevates the car. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. You and I said absolutely at the same time.
Thanks.
Absolutely. That car was really one of the most significant cars of the 80s and technically in the 90s. It's going to continue to be significant. I found a funny little random thing I wanted to let you know. You've probably heard of the band Blink-182. They did a song called The Rock Show, and they did a music video back in 2001. And that music video had a 1990 Miata in it. And one of the most prolific films that had, and this was of the 90s, that had a Miata in it was the 1996 film Crash.
Really?
That had a Miata in it, and kind of a supporting role, but it was one of the cars that was used in the film. And it's popped up a bunch of other places too. There was a kids show called Drake and Josh that had a Miata in it as well.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was definitely being used,
They pop up every once in a while. I know I've seen them in movies and shows, and I'll always point out to anyone I'm watching with and pause it, point out the fact that there is a Miata there, and then everyone roll their eyes and ask me to keep playing, but still, yeah, good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I really think it's like I said, it's one of the most significant cars of the past, 30 plus years. I mean, starting in '89, I still remember the ad campaign and also hearing the stories about dealers. It's like, as you do, dealer, when you get the hot car, marking things up. And I remember that happened with the NSX and the ZR1 Corvette, and all of those kind of hot halo cars were just getting marked up like crazy.
And one other thing as to why it's important. You think, if you're saying it's one of the most significant cars of the last however long, is that it reinvigorated, basically breathed new life into the roadster segment.
It did.
When the Miata certainly was in development, and by the time it came out, roadsters were almost a dead breed. There was the Mercedes SL. You could point to a few others here or there, but the at least the more mainstream roadster was gone, and had been gone for a long time.
Sure.
And without a Miata, you would have no Z3, now Z4.
True.
You'd have no Boxster.
Yeah.
TT. The entire Germanic roadster class of the
right.
thousands really owes its entire existence. These all owe their existence to the Miata.
Right. And that actually kind of transferred over into the pony cars too. I mean, all those 90s pony cars that were, for example, GM was building the Camaro and the now defunct Firebird and Trans Am in the Santarès, Quebec plant.
Mhm.
but they were putting out a lot of convertibles too, so I think you're right. I think the Miata lit this kind of convertible fire, and previous to them coming out, you had to spend either big bucks on a recent, high line car like a Mercedes, or you had to have a classic, like an Alpha or something like that, that was a roadster. And this brought back the modern convertible, and I think car companies just kind of rediscovered how profitable they could be and how popular they could be. Now you can go to any rental car place and they're going to have, usually a Mustang convertible or something
Yeah.
similar on the menu. Sadly, not a Miata most of the time. They should have one or some banging around there. But you're right. I think it reignited the interest in open top motoring.
And one of the last points is just to help encourage anyone to own a Miata. Your car is going to be nearly, I'll put an asterisk here because nothing is for certain, but it's going to be nearly theft proof. And why? Well, you can actually put quite a bit into a Miata. You really can. But compared to a larger car, can't fit certainly that many people or that much stuff. And if you get it as stick, no one will know how to drive it.
That's true. That's true. We live in that age where you're going to attract a lot of attention by not knowing how to drive your
exactly
car that you're boosting, right? I mean,
that's right. It's the standard anti-theft device.
A manual transmission.
Right.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Well, I got to say, Oren, it's been a genuine pleasure having you on. Again, I appreciate the pre-meetings that we had and discussions and things like that. It all started at a car show. Culver City Car Show, folks, is where it happened. And you just never know who you're going to meet. And it sounds like we're cut from the same cloth. I mean, I sometimes joke with friends that, if there was a Dr. Phil show centered on car addicts, is like, I think this guy might have a problem. It's like, and I used to be that guy. I mean, I still am in many respects, but I mean, it's hard to get me off the topic once you get started, and
same,
especially if it's anything from the 80s and 90s. I mean, there's so many, we could talk for hours about all the great cars that came out during that time. And I think the 90s in many ways, and the 80s too, late 80s and 90s, it was kind of a second renaissance of design from a number of marques, and into the early 2000s too, I would say. Now everything seems a bit more wind tunnel tested, which has its uses.
Yeah.
I do yearn for some of the designs from the past.
I do too. And I fully agree. I mean, in many ways, it was a complete golden age that, ran into the early years of the 21st century. And, and the Miata also, I think it was really the first retro designed car out there. And it wasn't really retro to a specific model, although you can make a case for the Lotus Elan.
Sure.
In some of the design elements. And you can point to, like, I remember back in 88 or 89, I think it was 89, or maybe 88, where like the Cadillac Eldorado, when GM's large coupes totally flailed in the marketplace, and they had to do some really quick redo work to try to get them to sell better. And Cadillac added some straight edges and some quasi fins to evoke the past. Other than that.
Yeah.
The Miata was really the first retro car, and the retro movement, I mean, is still going. The ID is a product of the retro movement.
Yeah. It's huge. I'm thinking of the Mustangs that were coming out in 2007-ish. 2007 was when they relaunched the GT500.
Right.
And in that design, you could see retro touches. And I think designers were starting to, looking like the headlights especially. And so you could see, they were kind of trying to get back to, those classic lines that really it was brand identity, but it was also design identity.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're absolutely right about that.
See, this is the sort of thing that we can just, when car nuts start to talk, this is why this is going to be the world's first 38-hour video podcast. We're just going to keep going, and it's always...
That's right.
Yeah. So grab some milk, grab some Coke, whatever. We're going to keep going.
Right. You'll just see the screen blank because we've left the room to go get, 32-ounce coffees, and then we'll be back and
or some sleep
through the night.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been great. Again, I appreciate you talking to us about everything Miata, and I think, you've got some really not just great anecdotes, but some really helpful information for anyone who's considering getting one of these cars. And I kind of feel like, because I've seen some of the M editions out there, some of the special editions that you were talking about, and those are going for a little bit more money. And the desirable models out there are commanding the premiums, as you said, for those reasons. There's lower production numbers, there's, added features, and it all goes with that iconic design and performance. So yeah, the Miata's a winner through and through. Yeah, Oren, thank you so much for talking to us about them this evening. It's been great.
Thank you so much for having me on, and Miata drivers and prospective Miata owners out there. Just remember, it's always better to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow. So
that's true.
That's right.
Because those fast cars going slow don't like it. They just bog, and
you don't want that.
The engine's not good for the engine.
You don't want that.
Well, on that note, to all the folks out there watching, thanks for tuning in. And especially to Oren Rappaport, thanks so much for joining us, talking to us about your 1995 Mazda Miata and everything Miata. It's truly been an educational experience for me. I always appreciated those cars and had a love for them, but I definitely learned something new tonight. I'm still learning more about them. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.